The first strike. Commander Elena Santos stood at the viewport of the International Space Station's new observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the shimmer of Earth below. 20 years of space service had done nothing to dim her appreciation for that view. The marble of blue and white, wrapped in its delicate atmosphere, never failed to remind her of humanity's resilience and ingenuity. They'd come so far from their first tentative steps into space. The gentle hum of the station's life support systems was interrupted by an urgent beep from her neural interface. Commander, the voice of her XO, Lieutenant Sarah Chen, carried an edge she'd never heard before. We're detecting multiple anomalies at the edge of the solar system. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Elena's pulse quickened, but her voice remained steady. Show me. The viewport transformed into a tactical display, showing the outer reaches of the solar system. Dozens of points of light were appearing seemingly from nowhere, each larger than any human vessel ever constructed. The objects were decelerating rapidly, their energy signatures suggesting drives far beyond current human capabilities. Alert all Earth defense commands, Elena ordered, her mind already racing through protocols that had, until now, existed only in theory. And get me a direct line to the Security Council. Before Chen could acknowledge the order, the objects changed course. Instead of continuing their deceleration toward the inner planets, they accelerated sharply. Elena's enhanced neural interface processed the trajectory data before her conscious mind could catch up. They were heading straight for Earth. Multiple objects launching from the unknown vessels, Chen reported, her voice tight with controlled fear. Trajectory suggests. The rest of her sentence was lost as the first impacts hit Earth's atmosphere. Elena watched in horror as brilliant flashes of light erupted across the planet's surface. Cities that had stood for centuries vanished in microseconds. The neural network flooded her mind with casualty estimates that she forced herself to ignore. This is Commander Elena Santos of the International Space Station to all Earth forces. She broadcast on all frequencies. We are under attack by unknown extraterrestrial forces. This is not a drill. Implement Protocol Omega immediately. Protocol Omega. The words felt heavy as she spoke them. It was a contingency plan that many had criticized as paranoid when it was first proposed 5 years ago. Now it might be humanity's only hope. Across the planet, hidden bunkers began to open. Weapons platforms that officially didn't exist powered up. The quantum encryption network, built in secret through a coalition of nations, activated. Humanity had not been as unprepared as their attackers assumed. Commander, Chen's voice cut through her thoughts. We're receiving a transmission from the alien vessels. The viewport flickered, and Elena found herself staring at a being that defied easy description. Its form was vaguely humanoid, but composed of what appeared to be crystalline structures that shifted and flowed like liquid mercury. People of Earth, the being spoke, its words translated by an AI that had been preparing for this moment for years. I am High Commander Nexus of the Valerian Empire. Your world occupies a strategic position that we require. Surrender now, and a portion of your species will be preserved in our behavioral archives. Resist, and you will be eliminated. You have one planetary rotation to decide. Elena's response came without hesitation. This is Commander Elena Santos of Earth. We do not surrender to threats, no matter the source. If you want our world, you'll have to fight for every inch of it. The being's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been amusement. Your species' reputation for defiance is well documented. It will make your extinction more satisfying. The transmission cut off, leaving Elena staring at the devastation below. Cities were burning, millions were dead, but all across the planet, humanity was responding. Underground factories that had been producing advanced weapons in secret were opening their doors. Quantum computers were analyzing the alien energy signatures, looking for weaknesses, and in hidden bases around the world, ships built with technology reverse engineered from crashed alien vessels were preparing to launch. Commander, Chen's voice was stronger now, filled with determination. The Artemis Defense Network is online. All sealed facilities report ready status. First wave of countermeasures deploying. Elena allowed herself a grim smile. The Valerians had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed that humanity's visible technology represented the extent of their capabilities. They hadn't realized that Earth's governments, despite their public differences, had been secretly cooperating for decades, preparing for exactly this scenario. Send word to all commands, Elena ordered. Implement Defense Plan Echo. And get me a secure link to Admiral Chen at Lunar Base Alpha. As the orders went out, Elena watched Earth's first line of defense activate. Seemingly innocent satellites transformed, revealing weapon systems that had been hidden in plain sight. Quantum-linked defensive shields, tested in secret beneath the Antarctic ice, began to power up around major population centers. The Valerians had started this war with a devastating first strike, but humanity had been preparing for this moment for longer than anyone knew. They'd wanted a war. They were going to get one. All stations report ready, Commander, Chen announced. Waiting for your order. Elena took one last look at the burning Earth below. The next few hours would determine the fate of humanity, but she had faith in her species' greatest strength, their absolute refusal to accept defeat. Send the signal, she commanded. Operation Defiance begins now. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden strength was about to be revealed. The war for Earth's survival had begun, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy why they should never have been underestimated. Hidden strengths. Dr. Marcus Chen's fingers flew across the holographic interface as alarms blared through the underground facility. The quantum core hummed with increasing intensity, its crystalline structure pulsing with barely contained energy. Around him, dozens of scientists and engineers worked with practiced precision, despite the weight of 7 kilometers of Himalayan rock pressing down above them. Power fluctuation in sectors 3 through 7, announced Dr. Sarah Wright, her voice steady despite the chaos. Compensating. Marcus nodded without looking up. They'd drilled for this scenario countless times, but now it was real. The Valerian attack had triggered every contingency protocol they'd developed over the past decade. Project Prometheus was about to go live, years ahead of schedule. Status report from all sectors, he commanded, his voice carrying through the facility's quantum-linked communication system. The responses came immediately, each team reporting readiness. The facility, officially designated as a Deep Earth Research Station, was actually humanity's most advanced weapons development center. A new alert flashed across his display. The quantum sensors were detecting massive energy signatures from the Valerian fleet in orbit. They were preparing for another attack. They're targeting the remaining population centers, Marcus announced, initiating Defense Protocol Alpha. Across the globe, other hidden facilities like his were activating. The public had never known about the true extent of Earth's defensive preparations. While nations publicly argued about space programs and military budgets, they had secretly pooled their resources, preparing for the day aliens would discover Earth. Quantum Shield Network is online, Sarah reported, beginning synchronization with orbital platforms. The technology they'd developed was decades ahead of what was publicly known, reverse-engineered from recovered alien artifacts and enhanced by human innovation. Their defensive systems were about to be tested in actual combat for the first time. Marcus's neural interface buzzed with an incoming priority message. Dr. Chen. Commander Santos' voice came through clearly despite being broadcast from the space station. The Valerians are launching their second wave. Are the shields ready? Affirmative, Commander. Quantum shields are at full power, but there's something else you need to know. Marcus took a deep breath. We've completed analysis of their weapons technology. There's a fundamental flaw in their approach. The Valerians, for all their advanced technology, relied heavily on conventional physics, but humanity had been experimenting with quantum mechanics in ways they'd never imagined. The shields weren't just defensive. They were part of a much larger weapon system. The quantum core is stable, Sarah announced. Ready to initiate Protocol Omega. Marcus's hands moved across the interface, initiating sequences that would change the course of the war. Commander Santos, please inform all Earth forces to switch to quantum-shielded communications. What we're about to do will disrupt conventional electromagnetic signals. Across the facility, massive capacitors began charging. The quantum core's crystalline structure pulsed faster, its light casting strange shadows through the underground complex. What they were attempting had never been tested at full scale. All forces acknowledge, Santos replied. We're ready. Marcus looked at the tactical display showing the Valerian fleet. Their ships were pushing through the debris field of their first attack, preparing to finish what they'd started. They had no idea what was coming. Initiating quantum resonance cascade, he announced. All personnel, prepare for temporal distortion. The theory was elegant in its simplicity. The quantum shields wouldn't just block the Valerian weapons. They would absorb their energy and reflect it back through quantum space, amplified by factors that defied conventional physics. The first Valerian shots hit Earth's atmosphere, only to encounter something they'd never seen before. Instead of impacting their targets, the energy beams seemed to vanish. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the quantum core pulsed one final time. Across Earth's orbit, space itself seemed to ripple. The absorbed energy, processed through the quantum network, returned to its source. But instead of traveling through normal space, it emerged simultaneously at every point within the Valerian fleet. The effect was devastating. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before began to break apart. Their own energy turned against them through principles they didn't understand. The few vessels that survived immediately began retreat maneuvers. It worked, Sarah whispered, staring at the tactical display. It actually worked. But Marcus was already moving to the next phase. The quantum core wasn't just a defensive weapon, it was the key to humanity's counterattack. In hidden shipyards across the planet, vessels equipped with quantum drives were preparing to launch. Commander Santos, he transmitted, Phase 1 is complete. Should we proceed with Phase 2? The response came immediately. Proceed, Dr. Chen. Show them why humanity should never have been underestimated. Marcus allowed himself a small smile as he began the launch sequence. The Valerians had thought they were attacking a primitive species. Instead, they'd awakened a giant that had been preparing for this moment for decades. The war was far from over, but humanity had just proven they were far more dangerous than anyone had suspected. And they were just getting started. The turning point. Sarah O'Connor stared at the streams of alien code flowing across her neural interface, her augmented mind processing patterns that would have been incomprehensible to her just months ago. The bunker's air was stale, recycled through filters that hadn't been maintained since the first Valerian attack, but she barely noticed anymore. She was too focused on the breakthrough that could change everything. They're not as advanced as we thought, she muttered, her fingers dancing through the holographic interface. Around her, a team of former game developers, hackers, and AI specialists worked with military precision, their civilian backgrounds forgotten in the wake of humanity's greatest crisis. Found something? Captain David Rahman asked, his cybernetic eye glowing softly as he studied her work. Before the invasion, he'd been skeptical about incorporating civilian tech experts into military operations. Now he knew better. Sarah nodded, pulling up a complex visualization of Valerian ship systems. Their technology is powerful, but it's rigid. They never had to adapt like we did, never had to think sideways. The revelation had come to her while analyzing data from the quantum core attack. The Valerians' advanced technology was based on principles that had remained unchanged for millennia. They'd never faced a species that forced them to innovate, to think differently. Show me, Rahman ordered, his tactical mind already seeing possibilities. Sarah expanded the display, highlighting critical systems in the Valerian architecture. Their ships are essentially running on what we call a single operating system. Elegant, powerful, but vulnerable. Rahman finished. One weakness affects everything. Exactly. Sarah pulled up another display, this one showing the results of her team's latest simulation. And we found that weakness. Their quantum shielding works on predictable patterns. But what if we introduce chaos? The display showed a new kind of attack program, one that combined human gaming algorithms with military cyber warfare tactics. It was completely unlike anything the Valerians would have encountered before. Dr. Chen's quantum attack proved they're vulnerable. Sarah continued, but that was just the beginning. We can do more than just reflect their energy weapons. We can turn their entire command and control system against them. Rauman's cybernetic eye whirred as he processed the implications. How soon can it be ready? The basic version. Now. Sarah gestured at the quantum-linked servers humming in the background. We've been running simulations for weeks. But here's the real key. It can evolve. Every time they try to adapt, the program will change too. Just like a game that learns from its players. Alerts flashed across their neural interfaces. The Valerians had regrouped after their initial defeat and were launching a new offensive. This time, they'd modified their weapons to try to counter the quantum shields. They're attacking in waves, Raman announced, watching the tactical feed. Testing our defenses systematically. Sarah smiled grimly. That's exactly what we want them to do. Their systematic approach is their weakness. Permission to launch Operation Chaos. Raman nodded, opening a secure channel to command. This is Captain Raman. Asset Omega is ready for deployment, requesting authorization. Commander Santos' voice came through clearly. The Valerians have launched attacks on 3 continents. We need this to work. Authorization granted. Sarah's fingers flew across the interface as she initiated the program. Across Earth's defensive network, a new kind of weapon was deploying. It wasn't just a virus or a hack. It was a learning system designed to exploit the very predictability of Valerian technology. The effect was immediate but subtle. Valerian ships began experiencing minor malfunctions. Navigation systems showed incorrect data. Weapon targeting became unreliable. Each problem was small, but they began cascading through the connected systems. It's working, Sarah whispered, watching the chaos spread through the enemy fleet. Their systems are trying to compensate, but each correction just creates new vulnerabilities. The Valerian attack formation began to break apart as ships lost coordination with each other. Some vessels fired on their own allies, their targeting systems corrupted by the evolving program. Others simply shut down, their rigid systems unable to handle the unpredictable variations being introduced. All forces, advance, Raman ordered, watching the enemy fleet fall into disarray. Hit them while they're confused. Earth's quantum-equipped ships launched their attack, their weapons now guided by Sarah's program to exploit the growing chaos in the Valerian fleet. Ships that had seemed invincible were now struggling to maintain basic functions. Send the next phase, Sarah ordered her team. Let's show them what human creativity can really do. The program evolved again, introducing new variations that spread through the Valerian fleet like a digital wildfire. Their rigid, unchanging technology had no defense against human adaptability and innovation. For the first time since the invasion began, the Valerians were retreating in genuine panic. Their perfectly ordered systems were being undone by human chaos theory and gaming algorithms, a combination they had never imagined possible. Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before turning back to her work. This was just the beginning. The program would keep evolving, keep adapting, just like humanity always had. The Valerians were about to learn why it was a mistake to underestimate a species that had turned adaptability into an art form. Unity's edge. Admiral James Wilson stood on the bridge of the UES Unity, watching as ships from every nation on Earth formed up around his command vessel. The sight would have been impossible just months ago. Chinese quantum destroyers flying in formation with American carriers, Russian stealth ships coordinating with European cruisers, Indian and Pakistani vessels operating as one fleet. All battle groups report ready. Admiral, Captain Maria Rodriguez announced, her holographic form shimmering beside him. She was physically commanding the South American contingent from Buenos Aires, but quantum entanglement communications made distance irrelevant. Status of the civilian fleet, James asked, studying the tactical display that showed hundreds of converted ships joining the military vessels. Cargo haulers retrofitted with quantum weapons, cruise ships turned into carriers, fishing vessels equipped with stealth systems. Humanity had turned every available ship into a weapon. Final preparations complete, Maria reported. They're not military, but they're ready to fight. The Valerians won't expect civilian ships to be armed with our latest tech. James nodded, remembering how quickly the world had changed. When the Valerians first attacked, Earth's nations had been divided, suspicious of each other. Now, facing extinction, old enemies had become allies, sharing technologies and resources in ways that would have seemed impossible before. Signal from Himalayan Command, his neural interface reported. Dr. Chen confirms the quantum network is at full power. Sarah O'Connor's chaos protocols are integrated into all ship's systems. The combined fleet represented everything humanity had achieved since the invasion began. Each ship carried quantum weapons developed in Dr. Chen's facility. Every computer system ran Sarah O'Connor's adaptive algorithms. And the crews were the best of humanity, chosen regardless of nationality or background. All vessels, Battle Formation Delta, James ordered, his words translated instantly into every language needed. Commence Operation Unity. The fleet moved as one, quantum drives humming as they accelerated toward the Valerian positions. The aliens had retreated to the outer solar system after their last defeat, regrouping and repairing their forces. They still outnumbered the human fleet, but numbers weren't everything. Valerian forces detecting our approach, Maria reported. They're moving to intercept. James watched as the enemy fleet approached, their crystalline ships still beautiful despite their deadly purpose. Remember the plan. Civilian ships stay behind the main battle line. Let them think they know our capabilities. The Valerian fleet moved into an attack formation that would have been devastating against a conventional enemy. But humanity wasn't fighting conventionally anymore. They're launching their first wave, Maria announced. Energy signatures suggest they've modified their weapons again. As expected, James replied. Initiate Phase 1. The civilian ships suddenly scattered, their seemingly chaotic movement actually a carefully choreographed dance. Cargo ships released clouds of quantum-enhanced particles that played havoc with Valerian sensors. Converted cruise ships launched swarms of automated drones that had been built in repurposed automobile factories. The Valerian formation faltered, their rigid tactical doctrine unable to adapt to the unexpected threat from ships they'd dismissed as harmless. That was when the military vessels struck. Quantum weapons fired from multiple vectors, their effects amplified by Sarah's chaos protocols. Chinese destroyers phased through space in ways that defied physics, appearing inside Valerian shield perimeters. American carriers launched fighters that moved with impossible agility, their human pilots linked directly to their ships through neural interfaces. Multiple Valerian ships disabled, Maria reported, her hologram showing fierce satisfaction. Their adaptive protocols can't keep up with our rate of change. But the Valerians weren't defeated yet. Their remaining ships concentrated their fire on the Unity, recognizing it as the command ship. Space itself seemed to warp as their enhanced weapons struck. Shield holding, James announced calmly. All ships, execute Pattern Omega. The human fleet moved again, shifting into formations that would have been impossible without quantum-linked communications and absolute trust between nations. Ships that had once been enemies now protected each other, their crews working together as if they'd trained for years. Sir, Maria's voice carried a note of awe. You need to see this. The tactical display showed something unexpected. The civilian ships, rather than staying back as ordered, had formed their own attack groups. Fishing boats darted between capital ships, their improvised weapons striking at vulnerable points. Converted cargo haulers used their bulk to shield damaged military vessels. Let them fight, James decided. Humanity stands together now. The battle raged across the solar system, but its outcome was becoming clear. The Valerians, for all their advanced technology, couldn't match humanity's creativity and newfound unity. Ship by ship, their fleet was being disabled or driven back. Signal from the Valerian flagship, Maria reported. They're requesting communication. James straightened his uniform, preparing to face the enemy. Put them through to all ships. Everyone deserves to hear this. The holographic display showed the crystalline form of the Valerian High Commander, its structure showing signs of damage. You fight differently than expected, it said, its translated voice carrying a note of confusion. We fight together, James replied simply. Every ship, every nation, every civilian willing to stand against you. That's what your attack taught us, that we're stronger united than divided. The Valerian commander was silent for a long moment. Perhaps we have miscalculated. Perhaps you have, James agreed. The question is, what happens next? The answer would determine the fate of both species, but whatever came, humanity would face it as one. Defiance rising. The crystalline structure of High Commander Nexus pulsed with unfamiliar patterns as it reviewed the battle data. In 10,000 cycles of expansion, the Valerian Empire had never encountered a species quite like humanity. Their ships should have been primitive, their weapons ineffective, their tactics predictable. Instead, High Commander, its subordinate's voice carried harmonics of distress. The humans are deploying new variants of their chaos protocols. Our systems cannot maintain coherence. Through quantum-linked sensors, Nexus watched humanity's combined fleet advance. Their formation defied tactical logic, mixing military and civilian vessels in ways that should have been suicidal. Yet it worked. More than worked, it was devastating. Aboard the International Space Station, Commander Elena Santos received the latest updates from the fleet. Dr. Chen's quantum weapons were performing beyond expectations. Sarah O'Connor's chaos protocols had the Valerian fleet in disarray, and Admiral Wilson's unified fleet was pressing their advantage. Commander, Lieutenant Chen reported, we're detecting unusual energy patterns from the Valerian flagship. They're either preparing a final attack or something else, Elena finished. Her neural interface was processing the data, comparing it to everything they'd learned about Valerian technology. Open a channel to High Commander Nexus. The communication link established, showing the crystalline being in its command center. Elena noticed subtle changes in its structure, signs of adaptation she wouldn't have recognized months ago. Your species continues to surprise us, Nexus stated, its translated voice carrying new harmonics. Our records indicated a fractured, primitive civilization. Instead, we find this. Elena allowed herself a small smile. You're not the first to underestimate humanity, High Commander. Your attack forced us to reveal capabilities we'd kept hidden. But more importantly, it forced us to unite. Yes, Nexus pulsed thoughtfully. Unity through adversity. A concept we had forgotten. The Empire has known only expansion for millennia. We believed technological superiority was everything. Through her neural interface, Elena monitored the ongoing battle. The human fleet was systematically disabling Valerian ships, using tactics that evolved too quickly for the aliens to counter. Each engagement taught Sarah's chaos protocols new tricks, which were instantly shared through the quantum network. It's not just about technology, Elena explained. Humanity's strength comes from our diversity, our ability to adapt, to think differently. Every culture, every individual brings new perspectives. We observe this, Nexus acknowledged. Your weapons are formidable, but it is your unpredictability that truly defeats us. Even now, your systems evolve faster than we can comprehend. Admiral Wilson's voice joined the conversation through the quantum link. Because we're not fighting as separate nations anymore. Every breakthrough is shared, every innovation immediately available to all. Unity makes us stronger than we've ever been. The Valerian commander's crystalline form shifted, displaying patterns Elena had never seen before. Perhaps we too must adapt. The Empire has not faced real challenge in countless cycles. We have become stagnant. Through the station's viewports, Alina watched as the battle began to slow. Valerian ships were powering down their weapons, while others retreated to safe distances. But something felt different from a simple surrender. "What are you proposing, High Commander?" she asked, sensing a pivotal moment. "Your species has shown us something we had forgotten: the value of change, of adaptation." Nexus's form pulsed with new colors. "We offer not surrender, but collaboration. Your quantum technologies, combined with our experience. Your adaptability, tempered by our stability." Dr. Chen's voice joined the discussion. "Their base technology is still centuries ahead of ours in many areas. Combined with our innovations, we could achieve things neither of our species could alone." Sarah O'Connor completed the thought, her tactical analysis programs already seeing the possibilities. Alina shared a look with Admiral Wilson's hologram. Humanity had united to fight a war. Could they stay united to forge a peace? "Any agreement would require guarantees," Wilson stated firmly. "Earth's independence is non-negotiable." "Agreed." Nexus responded immediately. "We seek partners, not subjects. Your species has earned that right." Alina took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. There would need to be extensive discussions. Trust will take time to build. "Time we now have," Nexus observed. "Already, our scientists study how your chaos protocols have changed our systems. We are evolving, thanks to you." Through her neural interface, Alina sent a private message to Earth's Unified Command. Their response was swift and unanimous. Humanity had come together to fight extinction. They would stay together to forge a new future. "High Commander Nexus," Alina announced formally, "humanity accepts your proposal for collaboration. Let today mark not just the end of our war, but the beginning of something new." The Valerian commander's form crystallized into a pattern that Alina somehow knew represented agreement. Perhaps this was the true purpose of our meeting. Not conquest, but catalyst. You have changed us, as conflict has changed you. As the formal negotiations began, Alina looked down at Earth. The scars of the initial attack were still visible, but so were signs of recovery. And now, humanity looked to the stars not in fear, but with renewed purpose. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger, united not just as a species, but soon as partners with their former enemies. The future held challenges, but Alina knew humanity would face them the same way they'd faced the Valerian invasion. Together, adapting, always defiant in the face of impossible odds. That was, after all, what humanity did best.